Hey guys and gals, welcome to Miyagi Mornings episode 15 as we wrap up the third week of Miyagi Mornings together. And there may be some rooster crows in the background, but for those that are on the podcast versus the video, it's not because I'm outside at the Miyagi pond where I'm supposed to be. I am in my office. And once again, I'm not hiding from the cold. It's actually beautiful outside. I don't have the time to set the camera up out there and all that today. This is a time constraint issue like it was yesterday. And today we're going to talk about starting a business. This came as a combination from a bunch of different questions that are coming in from Miyagi Mornings by email or in the comments section of the videos, along with, hey, I took like 3 that was been asked about quite a bit lately, put them out for a vote on Telegram and MeWe, on the Telegram and MeWe group and channel for the Survival Podcast. And the winner was number 1, which was starting a business, which is our subject for today. So I can't, in 5 to 10 minutes for a Miyagi morning segment, examine 10 different businesses and go through them like I might in a podcast. I have to be far more generic and general with how do you think about discovering what you can do to earn an income independent of employment. And I want to start out with the fact that I'm going to be honest, it's not really something that everybody needs to do, or it's not for everybody. There are certain things that come with running and operating a business, even a small side business, that some people just, I don't know that they're not cut out for, but they are, it's not going to give them pleasure. And they don't need to. Like they have enough employment or investment or whatever that they don't really need to be in a business. And if something makes you miserable, then maybe you shouldn't do it. That doesn't mean that I don't think if you're doubtful, you shouldn't test the waters and try to do something. But in trying to do something, if you end up hating it, I've always been a big believer in quitting what you hate. And I'll also say with that, just because you take a shot at a business in one direction and it doesn't work out and you don't really enjoy it, it doesn't mean that you can't find a business that you'll enjoy. You need to look at a business a lot of ways, the way that you would look at a beer or a wine. When somebody tells me I don't like beer or I don't like wine, if they don't drink, they don't drink. But if they just, I'm a drinker, but I don't like beer, you haven't tried enough beers, or you haven't tried enough wines. Like I don't like this particular, food category. Like let's say I don't like Asian food. You haven't tried enough. Like there is so much opportunity out there to try different things, whether it's the world of business or cuisine, that maybe you just haven't found the thing that you actually enjoy yet. So starting right out of the gate with that, the 3 questions that I always tell people to ask themselves to try to find a place to start, not necessarily, this may not be the answer, but it is often a good one, is we start out with what are you good at? And when we ask that question, you need to add to it or can become good at. Because a lot of stuff that you might do to earn a living or to earn income, you will probably suck at it when you do it for the first time. Because we have to learn and develop as individuals in skill sets. So if there's something that you're either good at or you feel that you can become good at, that can kind of go in a list. The next thing is, what do you love? Because that pairs right in with the first question. If you love something, you probably can get good at it. Right? There's very few things you can't get good at. I've always said I can't play a guitar, but I'll tell you why. I don't love the idea of playing a guitar enough to go through the crap to get good at it. Some people have a natural talent for playing a guitar, and they can move more quickly. But I don't believe anybody, unless you don't have the ability to somehow, because I've seen people that play blind with it in their lap, like Jeff Healey did or whatever. I don't believe anybody can't play a guitar unless you physically cannot actually strum strings, right? So anybody can, but you got to love something enough to attach it to something that you want to do or feel that you can be good at enough to become good at it. So you don't necessarily have to love something, but I really would stray you away from building a business on something you definitely hate, right? And a lot of people hate their jobs. So why would you replace a job you hate with a business you hate? So just because you're good at something at your job and it earns income doesn't necessarily mean it makes a good thing for you to do as a business. Do you hate it because you're working for somebody else and you don't like the structure, or do you hate it because you don't like the thing? I have a friend whose first wife went through all the crap to become an architect, get licensed, everything, and she designs closets today because she hated being an architect. So think about that. And then the last thing is, what value can you produce? So if we can find something we're good at or can become good at, we at least like and hopefully love, then all we got to do is figure out how do we make that into a value that we can provide to other people. And then if we market that value effectively, we should be able to end up with some level of an enterprise. And I know that sounds oversimplified, but it's really where you have to start, because I don't know what you should do. Just like I told you this week, I can't tell you what to put in your pantry because I don't know what you eat. I don't know what you're good at. I don't know what you love, and I don't know what value you offer. You have to discover that for yourselves. Next, you really should be asking yourself going into this, with the permaculture principle designed with the end in mind, do I want a full-time business? Do I want a side hustle? Or do I want kind of a portfolio of hustles that maybe create a full-time income, but none of them are full-time enterprises? And you may change your mind about that, but it's not a bad idea to have that discussion with yourself. I often say, self, what should I do? Like that type of real discussion, that real individual examination. What do I really want out of this? And it may be the case that you're going to start out with a side hustle, but whether you want that side hustle to become a full-time business, a portfolio of side hustles, or just a side hustle, those change everything about how you're going to approach what you're going to do. Because one of the things that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to do the mathematics. So if you decide I'm going to go into this business, I'm going to start it as a side hustle, but I want to work it to a full-time income, one needs to put together something like a spreadsheet or at least a back of the napkin calculation and say, well, based on some assumptions, some guesses about how much profit there is per unit of this thing, how many units of this thing must I produce to earn enough money to earn a living to fill my budget to where I don't need to go over here and work a job anymore. And often you may find, hey, I can make some money at this. This can be fun. This can be a hobby that produces some income and beyond paying for itself, and that's great. But the scale necessary will never work with me as the person. Then you have to decide, okay, since it won't work, if I'm the only one doing it, do I want to have employees? Do I want to build a large business? You see what I'm saying? Because I've had people say, well, I'm gonna do what you did when you used to do commercial duck eggs. Okay, fine. Do you know how many ducks it takes to make, what do you make in it? And they have an income of $50,000 in their job. And, there's some things in there like employee provided healthcare and shit where they don't realize their job's worth about $80,000 a year in real money. Okay, so do you know how many ducks it takes to make $80,000? I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying that, if you do that math, you may realize, that never leads, at least by itself, to what you're looking for. So maybe even if you like playing around with ducks, this is a place to make some pocket money while you figure out something else to do. It's not a place to try to stake your fortune. And you need to do that mathematics to figure that out. Next up, you need to ask yourself also, do I want a public-facing business? And I don't mean a public, traded business like a giant corporation or something. I just mean, do you want your business to be, quote-unquote, above board? So that you have a sign out in your front yard, Bill's Widgets or Bill's Widget Service. And you're advertising in the mainstream world and you're taking dollars and you're running a PayPal account and a credit card account and stuff like that and making bank deposits and what have you. Do you want that? And a lot of people, that is a good business to be in because it takes us into the world of tax strategy that we won't get into today. Or do you want cash money, crypto money, agorist business? Or do you want some sort of a hybrid there? A lot of side hustles, bro. Telling you, a lot of the side hustles, cash money at the gate, the way we did the duck eggs. And we sold to restaurants, and that all was on the books. See how that works? Can't explain further than that for you. Got to work that out for yourself. Yeah? All right, so the person that just has a small, and I'm not suggesting you go in the egg business, I'm just saying a small flock of some sort of egg-laying bird that has people come by their place and pick up eggs, put some cash in their pocket, would probably be best to just let that between the person that gave them the money, the duck or the chicken, yourself, and the gatepost where you met to exchange dollars for eggs. Now, you got to figure out, do I really want to try to build an income, though, enough to support my life on something like that, or do I want to have an above-board business, or do you want to be like the guy that I've mentioned before from Pennsylvania that had an ice cream shop, okay, and he sold a bunch of ice cream, but he sold a bunch of other stuff, and you can work it out from there. You got to figure that out for yourself. And then I do want to say that I came at this from an approach of you got to figure it out for yourself, And I didn't want to like give you 20 ideas for a business or something like that. There's value in that though, because it often leads you to, well, I can do that. Or that idea gives me another idea. So when I was young and trying to figure out what I want to do with myself, I bought magazines like 50 businesses you can start this year and all. And guess how many of them businesses I started? None. Not a single one that was suggested. None of them said podcaster and YouTube creator because, well, that was so far long ago there wasn't no YouTube yet and there wasn't a podcast yet. But you see, none of them were content creation, producing audio. None of them were what I actually ended up doing. But there is value in that because it turns that mental computer on. You're basically putting a problem in your head. How do I figure out what I can do to produce value? And you start analyzing things and no leads to, well, now how do I find a yes? So an example of that would be like my buddy John Dowie, who listens to the Survival Podcast. Years ago, we had a guest on, talked about a microgreen business. He's like, I can do that shit. And he went out and built a microgreen business. And he survived the slaughter of 2020 by going from selling to restaurants to selling to people directly. So that's a business you can still do. Does that mean you should do it? Not necessarily, but it's not a terrible idea. And last but not least, and this one went longer than I wanted, but you know, when you get into entrepreneurship, it's complicated. No one cares work harder. I'm wearing a shirt. Those of you on the podcast can't see it. This came from John Willis. This is my favorite shirt John Willis ever sent me. You guys see a lot of SOE Tactical Gear shirts on me. I went and changed into this shirt to do this video just because I love it so much and it fits this. The thing you must understand if you're going to go into being an entrepreneur, this is everything. No one gives two shits about how passionate you are or how good you are or whatever. When it comes down to it, you now must figure out why something's working and do more of that, or why something's not working and change it, and you must work harder. And work harder does not always equal results. But when you figure it out, working harder equals results. Miyagi Mornings is something that I started doing after my fall workshop. When we talked about what the workshop gave us at that workshop, I stood up first and I said, I need to work harder. Me, the guy that's been killing myself for 12 years, and it wasn't so much work harder, I needed to do more. And since then, not just Miyagi Mornings, I've been producing more. I have seen a direct result. I have worked harder and more money has come into my bank account. You can work harder in a job, and that doesn't necessarily happen. Maybe you can get some overtime or whatever, but unless you're in some sort of incentive-based compensation, you can work harder than the guy next to you and make the same money. The big reason to do this, when you work harder, you get the rewards. The negative is sometimes hard work does not equal reward if it's the wrong work. If there's a fly sitting in your windowsill, he can work as hard as he wants trying to go through that window, and what's going to happen? Dead fly. There you go. That's the truth, but don't let it demotivate you. What are you good at? What do you love? What value can you add to it? Crack that code, and you will be on your way to building an enterprise of your own. With that, we've wrapped up another week of Miyagi Mornings. I will be back with you on Monday.